about how to game plan your office days for overachievers. Now, you might be wondering, what is Veronica and Roxana going to talk about today? Well, we're going to dive into the hybrid and remote world. And what does this start to look like? Are you going to need to adopt your boss's schedule? How does that look like? About being proactive versus reactive? And is it any different if you're an extrovert versus an introvert? And what about the leader side? Do something need a change in that part of the perspective? So come join us today as we dive into how to game plan your office for days for the overachiever. Starting in a little bit here. Well, good morning, Roxana. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm fine. Perfectly all right after a long weekend here. And I know you had a long weekend over in the US as well. So I just hope some of you who are back from your long weekend are with us today. So let us know in the comments if you're watching.
Yes, those of you that are watching today live on LinkedIn or our other channels, YouTube or Facebook, say hello. Let us know how you're doing today. We wanted to talk about game planning and strategizing for those of you that are overachievers out there. And you're probably going, what? Where did they even get this? Well, it actually comes from an article from the Wall Street Journal, and we'll share that link, where they were talking about, is now your schedule your boss's schedule? And Roxanne and I were like,
I was
this is
so
going to be
sad.
interesting, right?
I was so sad, and I was reading that article, and especially that headline. And I think I told you, I think this article is so sad. If that's where we are today, after a year and a half of really making it work one way or another. So that's how we came up with the idea. Let's discuss it on the show, and let's see what this means for you, because a lot of you are overachievers, and I think if you think about yourself as an overachiever, let us know what that means for you, because we want to know. But let's talk about what we can do to keep this working for everybody, because I think if your boss's schedule is your schedule, that's pretty sad.
Yeah, it is. Now, I was checking to see if we were alive. I'm not sure if those of you, if you are watching and you see it come through on my profile, let me know. I'm not necessarily getting it. I see it's on your profile, but just
Yeah.
to kind of help us out on checking that. But regardless, let's just jump in. Now, we probably want to talk about where we like choice. And the reason why we brought this up is we almost thought it was a problem, even reading this article. I think you and I were both scratching our head
Yeah.
because we're like, okay, so what does that mean? That if it's hybrid and I have to go in the office, so what? Now they're going to dictate when I need to go in the office, because if my boss ends up coming on Tuesdays, does that mean I should probably think about coming Tuesdays? But how does that help me when that's the day I wanted to stay home with my kids?
And I think that's exactly the reason why I thought it was so sad, because even before the whole pandemic discussion, I was never a fan of looking at people being in the office as if they were furniture. Like, and actually, I used to say that a lot. People are not furniture. Just the fact that they're there in the office does not mean that they're productive, does not mean that they're creative, does not mean that they're getting the results, especially if they were supposed to be someplace else and they can't because they have to be in the office. And I think that's why a lot of us today really loved this kind of flexibility that the whole virtual work brought with it. And I think most of the people and teams out there proved that yes, actually, people can work from home. A lot of them work better from home. Not to mention, they definitely worked more from home than from the office because they didn't have to spend time with the commute. They didn't have to spend time. I actually got this from somebody who's saying, I'm not as productive in the office as I'm at home, because in the office, when I go to the office, I have to talk to people because we do the chit chat. And I like, sometimes they just come into my office and they just talk to me, and I'm really struggling to focus on what it is I need to focus. Whereas when I'm at home, I don't have this problem. So for most of the people out there, the flexibility only brought more productivity. And I think this
Yeah.
is why we found this so sad.
Yeah, and it it's I'm trying to like even come to the word. Why am I even worrying about trying to say the right words on this, right? So it's more about really thinking about how the direct correlation of me getting a promotion or me being getting noticed by the boss. And this is what part of the article concerned me, is that if I don't see you, I don't remember you.
Hmm.
And that's where I was more concerned about. There's someone trying to come in my office here. Get out, lock the door.
See, that's why you do.
I didn't lock the
Get
door.
out.
So I know it throws me off. See, look at that one. Any of you guys ever happen, like somebody walks in and you're just kind of like thrown out of there? But where we feel that we have to get more game time. So let's be honest. When you develop relationships and someone can see not only who you are, but the results that you can do, because part of that game at organizations is not about it's always about who you know. It's
Yeah.
about the relationships. Come on,
Mhm.
let's just get real about that. And so what do you do when you are of the 300 people, the 200 people, or what might have you, that you're not getting noticed by the person that's going to be making decisions on that next promotion or the next cool project to do? And so this is what I was talking about, proactive versus reactive, is that you have to be more diligent. It doesn't mean about who's an extrovert or an introvert or to change your personality, because I do not believe in that. It's more of, you have to also be proactive of realizing what you care about as an
Yeah.
individual. Are you trying to grow in your career? So you should be thinking strategically about that. But then on the same coin, if I am a manager, right, a people leader, is what am I doing to make everyone feel the same, right? And
Hmm.
that's that inclusiveness, that I'm not
Exactly.
playing favoritism over someone. And so I think it goes both ways, in truth, that you can't depend on the leader to do everything, right? You want to be proactive and also think of what you want,
Yeah.
right? So that's why a lot of organizations like self starters and independent people, because they're
Mhm.
not waiting on opportunity, they create opportunity. And if they're creating opportunity for themselves, there's probably a direct correlation. They're creating opportunity in the work that's helping the business drive forward, right? I think it's all connected.
Yeah, it is all connected, and it just reminds me. So back in my corporate days, I used to head the learning and development department, and it was for, at that point, I think six different offices in six different countries. So obviously, I couldn't be in all of the countries at the same time. So it was remote work, right? And it was a lot of virtual meetings. I didn't have to be physically in the same space with the chief operating officer who I was reporting to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't. And I think that was an unrealistic expectation, that this is what I should be doing in my role. My role was not to be in front of my COO 100% of the time. My role was creating all of those development programs for the organization and making sure everything works. So it's not about whether or not you are in the same physical space. Of course, that sometimes matters. And proximity bias, we know that it exists. And we know that if I meet you on the hallway, chances are that I will remember something that I wanted to tell you just because I'm meeting you on the hallway now. But that doesn't mean that if we have this kind of conversations online, I'm not going to do the same thing. But just knowing that we're going to be biased one way or another, and being aware of that as a manager and also as a team member, that is going to be helpful in helping us really meet in the middle, because I'm supposed to take some steps forward towards you, and you're supposed to meet me midway as well. That's how it works. It doesn't. Now it really depends on the culture, and this is where I thought the article was a little bit sad because it was talking about getting back to that culture of super hierarchical conversations of I really need to be in the same physical space as my boss just to prove that I exist.
Yeah.
And I thought we were past that. I thought, we actually learned something from everything that happened to us, especially because everything was it was happening with so much speed, and all of the changes that we went through was accelerated. And I thought, oh, there we go. This is our opportunity to learn from what happened. And if that's going to take us back to the industrial age where you actually had to be there physically just for people to understand that you're actually producing something of value, that is the sad part. And I think that is what we shouldn't let happen.
And I love what you're saying in this, because it's also how we design things in what I would call our ecosystem, where we can't force certain people that don't want to put energy when it comes to people. Sometimes it's just not there, right? We know that because we can measure that today. You might be driven by other things. And so we have to be very cognizant of how are we creating opportunity to allow people to show their stuff. I like to say it that way.
Yeah.
And is it an individual of showing stuff, or is it a team? And how do you show that? If I was a boss and I had to choose between employee number one or employee number two when it comes to that advancement opportunity, what do I need to do to stand out in the crowd, right? And so this is where that influencer, we had a whole series last month around that, and this is where you're defining your own personal leadership and how you want to stand out, so you can actually personalize it to who you are and be true to yourself, which I think is so important. We support that, right? But there's another thing as an organization is we still need to think about how we're developing a system to monitor and understand that we are getting what we need. Because we're realizing if we promote somebody just because of results, or we promote somebody because we like them, does not mean it's going to help us. And I think they're realizing in a VUCA world, right, that it's going to give us the results intended on the outcomes that we're trying to go towards. And what do I mean by that is, at what cost were those results being done? Was I micromanaging? Was I being more of a catabolic versus anabolic leader, right? Was I leading and pushing and pulling and forcing it on people? So like that heavy project management, and wasn't really creating independent thinking. It was really more somebody at a helm. And you could be doing this as a scrum master. You could be doing this as a project manager. You could be acting in this way as a development lead. and you might be getting the old school good pat on the job because you got results. That's what I'm referring to. But at the end of the day, we're trying to have more anabolic type of leadership, which is actually empowering others. Because if you're not there to drive things forward, I think we realized that during in the last year, right? When certain leaders were unavailable for whatever reason, tending to their family, or maybe they got sick. I don't know, right? There's all these things that we pretty much have been put to test as humans, that we don't want bottlenecks in the system.
Mhm.
So
Exactly.
what are we doing to create an adaptive system that allows that ability? So when without only getting back to, do I hire A or B or promote, right? I would probably want to think about is, who's the one that's actually helping us move in more of that direction of adaptability and resilient thinking and helping elevate others, versus the one that's holding us back to our progress in that direction.
And
And
I
you can
think
show it in so many ways.
that's so true. And I think I was reading something this morning related to productivity, where it says like productivity is not necessarily a people problem, it's a system problem. And
Mhm.
I think that's so true, and especially in this kind of environment where like we haven't operated in this kind of hybrid environment before, not at this scale. So I mean some organizations have, and they already know what they need to do. But for those of them that haven't, what what we're looking at is creating that, putting that system in place that actually helps people be included in the conversation, no matter where they work from, or no matter how many days they work from the office or from home or from wherever they work from. It's not a matter of where you work from, as long as you get the job done. But for that to happen, and for people to feel included and engaged and motivated, yes, you do have to create that system that actually helps them be included. So, and you and I also discussed about this earlier, I think back in July or August, where we were talking about, okay, if the leader says, look, I'm going to be in the office Tuesdays and Thursdays, but and then I'm going to work virtually. But then I don't do that, and I come to the office as a leader every day of the week. Guess what effect that's going to have on everybody who's in my team?
It's a lot of pressure.
That's a lot of pressure, and it tells them rules are just put into writing, and they're just good on paper, but they don't work in reality, because in reality something else happens. In reality, you come to the office every day, and then I will feel guilty for not doing that, although I know that theoretically I can do it, I'm allowed to do it. But practically, am I really, am I gonna be um, maybe losing or missing a promotion because of that, because I'm following the rule, but because other people are not following the rule, and especially because the leader is not following the rule, am I going
It,
to be punished for that?
in 2 weeks, we're going to have a topic about the great reshuffle with the millennials. And this has a
Yeah,
direct correlation to this topic today.
yeah,
And I'm laughing right now because we do have to get real about when we say about overachievers, because I have a theory, and I've shared it with you. So we're going to riff right now, is that a lot of the overachievers are going to start realizing is, if I have to bend to what you're describing, I'm going to go somewhere else where I don't have to
yeah,
exhaust myself about it.
yeah.
It's
And
just
a
too
lot
much
of people
work.
did that.
And if I'm
Absolutely.
smart enough, if I'm already an overachiever, I'm probably at a point where I know I can get another job,
Hmm.
because again, I'm probably proactive by nature,
Yeah,
and I've already have an idea of how I'm marketable. And you're probably, I mean, most likely they're probably interviewing right now. And I rather have more choice and flexibility, because if I'm smart enough to get my work done and I want to be able to stay home on a Tuesday, I don't want to feel like I have to go in just so that I am looked at as the employee to promote because I come in.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are starting to think about, and this is where we're going to touch on this subject in 2 weeks, where this article did bother me. It actually bothered me a lot when you sent it to me. And this is why we put it on, because we're actually getting snarky about it, is where I think it's kind of a BS, is you're basically saying we're going to go back to our old ways of thinking because we don't know how to change that mentality.
And I love what you say about at what cost. And I'm thinking, as you were saying that, I was thinking, at what cost are we so focused on keeping the rules, some of the old rules and procedures in place, when they don't give us the results anymore, when they're not helpful anymore? And I think that's where we need to rethink about and re-question some of the rules that we had in place. For example, I was talking to somebody the other day, and she's a mom. The kids are going to start school. She works from home. She has her lunch break is supposed to be 1 hour, but they're not allowed to take the full hour at once. So they're supposed to split it in half. Yeah,
I'm
exactly. See,
I'm sorry.
that's
Like what?
that exactly. So she asked, okay, can I take my lunch break at once, my 1 hour lunch break at once, so I can actually go and pick my kid from school and bring them home? And she still doesn't have an answer to that. They're still debating. They're
Not
still
even a one
negotiating.
hour.
How much time and energy and money are you wasting
But
on a stupid rule?
I'm sorry, but that's so factory worker thinking and old school about even a lunch hour break for one
That's why
hour.
I felt so sad about this
This is what
article.
this is what drives me crazy, is that we still function in that 9 to 5 schedule and time block. That I know a lot of people, you try to organize with a group of people where there's a moment you have your own space. I get that.
Yeah.
But there still is this mentality from the hours of 12 p.m. to 1 p.m., which is why we even air, because we know that mentality is that people are on their lunch break. But who says this has to be your punch clock time? Who says? Who makes it?
And
Like seriously, it's 2021 and we're still functioning like a factory.
And plus, think about it this way. Think about what this does from a trust perspective. So I come to you. I'm open. I'm transparent. I'm asking, I'm suggesting a solution here so I can, and this is going to help me work. This is going to help me bring the results for the business, right? So I'm completely transparent, and you don't help me with that. You're just trying to see how you can actually make me not do that, although that doesn't help either of us, right? What Why are we punishing people who are transparent? Because, like, if I never said anything to you and I just took my lunch break all at once, you never knew that this was happening, and that's it. I wouldn't have let you know about it. How is that better than me coming forward to you and just saying, hey, this is what I need to do, and this is the kind of flexibility that I would appreciate, and this is not going to affect the business? If it does anything, it's just going to help me do my work better, because I don't have to worry about who's going to pick up my kid.
There this for those of you that are overachievers, right? And we made this topic around how to game plan your office days. Are you one that actually wants to go into work?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's a good question.
Now,
Yeah.
or is it more about if there's a big meeting and we need to collaborate, like that's when I'd like to go, but it's more situational versus your norm. Like, do you want to be on a schedule that you have to be? I'd be very curious, those of you that you consider yourself an overachiever. and I'll let you decide if you are one or not, that you want that freedom of choice. Let us know. I want to hear in the comments, what's your thoughts and opinion about that subject?
Yeah.
For us is more of, if you are working in an environment, are you wanting to game plan your office days? That's probably the big question to ask, right? Are you wanting to have your boss's schedule? Because
Yeah.
if we are moving back to that traditional thinking, guess what? You're probably going to have to think that way.
Hmm.
Now, those are the cultures that are moving more towards, I would say, hybrid or remote, because this is the big controversy. And I loved, like, one of the groups that we connect and sync with in the community was challenging about hybrid. They've done studies, it doesn't even work. And it's either all or nothing. Now the problem is where are we going to land through all of this, right? I don't think we have enough data, because again, we're anticipating this great reshuffle, and then this year was also deemed as the great resignation. So I don't think we really know what people are going to do. We just have these speculations that something's going to come, right? The storm is a coming. It's going to hit us.
Well, it is.
But I think the question is those of you that are still wanting to have certain things and go back to the good old days, right? I'm just going to air quote, versus those that are really wanting to define something different. Who's gonna win in this?
Well,
Who's gonna come out of this?
I
And
think if you think
I think I have my hunch. What about you?
if we and also, it depends. It depends how long term you're planning for, because if you don't care about the long term, going back to the good old days might seem like a good solution, and for now.
No, especially if
um,
there's people close to retirement and they really don't want
yeah,
to go against the current. They're just like, I'm just trying to do my time until I'm out of here. I really don't care.
I
And
mean,
then you have the group. This is
exactly.
why the millennial generation is the one
Yeah.
you should be most worried about, because they make up 50% of the population, and that's why we're going to talk about it in 2 weeks. They have enough cushion and time to pivot.
Yeah. And they have. I mean, they already started, and we know that they're looking for more flexibility and this kind of hybrid work or virtual work, remote work, wherever it's possible. I mean, but if you even look at industries that are typically not your hybrid work, like, if I think even the healthcare industry learned a lot from what's possible and what's not possible, and even they are changing some of the things. So I don't understand. What I don't understand is, big companies that can actually, and where their teams prove that they can work remotely very nicely. That's what I don't understand. Why do you want to back to the good old when you can actually have something better? That's my my struggle with understanding this.
And I'm popping in the article that
Yeah.
in the chat here for all of you to see, depending on where you are. So I think I got all the different platforms and sharing that. But
Yeah.
I really would love your opinion around this, because people are already talking about game planning. And even though we have the what's happening out there and the variant and dynamics changing, and it might prolong some of this, the longer people stay away, yes, people want to interact with each other. Don't get me wrong, that's our
Yeah.
human nature.
Mhm.
But when you start to go back into it, the longer that they actually see their world, people get used to it. People, and what do I mean by used to it? Not used to it about the lack of interaction. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm talking about the flexibility about your work.
Yeah. Flexibility about around your
And they're
work,
going to weigh
about
things and
planning
go
it.
and
Yeah.
say, they're going to weigh things and say, how much do I need that interaction when I'm learning how to actually get it now virtually? Look at you and I. We've never met each other in person.
Exactly.
We have never met each other. And
Yeah. Yeah.
how often do you and I talk on a weekly basis?
I stopped counting anyway.
and gotten to
A
know each
lot.
other. So
Yeah.
how many of you have met people virtually
Yeah.
out there that you've become friends with? It's possible, is my point. Now, of course, you want to physically see people, don't get me wrong, and have gatherings and everything. And that's still plausible. But
Yeah.
what we're starting to question is the scale
Yeah.
when it comes to
Exactly.
life, right? Like some people were having to start to commute again. They're like, do I really want to live in my car for 2 hours one way, 2 hours coming back? Do I really want to have to get up earlier now to get ready to go into work when it was so much easier that I could just go, easily into my office and start working? I don't have to get up an hour earlier.
Mhm.
I actually get an hour's sleep. Yada yada yada. You get my whole point. And
Yeah.
I this is where that opportunity. So when you game plan in your office days for overachievers, what does that really mean if the overachiever's like, I'm not going to do that for you,
And plus, like, I think
right?
I don't know, maybe I'm money focused today, but here's a question. Like, if you're going to hire, how much talent are you, are you, do you want to, are you open to losing? Let's put it that way. Just because you have to choose from somebody who is absolute the right fit for your organization, and they bring a whole lot of talent in and value, but they cannot come into the office every single day, maybe not even 2 days a week. Are you gonna not make the offer to them just based on that? Or are you willing to open the door to more diverse talent, to talent that's not in your proximity, but who can deliver a lot of value and who can bring a lot of value to your organization and bring those results in? How are you gonna, is that even a hard choice to make? I don't know.
So here's what I love what you said, proximity. But so here's
Yeah.
again, are we solving this problem the right way? So if you're worried about seeing people and how they collaborate, maybe you need to think of a different approach, how to
Yeah.
actually create that
Yeah.
to get what you just described. So for example, you know me, I'm all about OKRs and that aspect of helping with the goal setting and connecting and aligning. So then it's very clear of what people are doing as a goal and there's a way to measure it. You have agile practices, right, that are known to be able it highly collaborative by nature. There's et cetera, et cetera. I can keep going down the list, right? We do the GC index, which is helping actually align to outcomes and processes, and you can be very adaptive about it because it's based
Mhm.
on impact, not personality.
Yep.
And so it's all these things that you can be a lot more deliberate about what you bring to the table and designing that to allow the capability of going beyond your sphere and getting better talent. So we know we have a high attrition rate out there today. And so when we talk about game planning office days for overachievers, I almost think as we wrap this up, the person that wrote this was more about the traditional thinking to match
Mhm.
what a leader does, where I don't know about you, but I'm in the position is, no, I'm actually going to find a culture and environment that matches me. That's not going to make me bend to my boss's schedule.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the exactly what got me upset. Because we're talking about motivation, engagement, diversity, and inclusivity, and yet we're still referring to that old way of thinking and doing things. No, that's not gonna work. That's gonna push talent out the door. And there are a lot of other organizations who will say thank you.
Oh, if you're smart, take advantage of it, folks.
Yeah.
Right? Take
Come here,
advantage of
people. Yeah.
it. So, as we're wrapping up for today, so let's take a look at what we're going to be talking about next week on this. Now, we knew it was probably going to be a little iffy and light today, coming off the holiday. It's funny because I didn't even know Canada had a Labor Day weekend, the same as the U.S.
Yeah, it's the same.
So
This is the
I was
same.
like, oh, I know. I'm like, oh, I'm on holiday. And Roxana's like, and we are too, duh.
Yeah.
This is what's great is you match yourself up on a show with people that are in different countries. You learn more about each other. Hint,
See,
hint.
exactly.
So next week, fun topic, playing offense or defense. I channeled a saying from somebody, you know who you are, of which one are you influencing? So this is going to be talking about, are you trying to keep up with your business of your competitors, right? Or are you in a position that you're trying to differentiate in the market? So the question is sports related, but that's what it's really about, is playing offense or defense, because that's the question you probably should be asking when it comes to change and what you're dealing with, today's culture, processes, and your strategy out there, right? Since we kind of take
Yeah.
the modern workplace takes account all of those things. So next week we're going to have that. We're going to have a special guest as well.
Yes.
And
Can't
Roxana, since
wait.
you know her best, can you give a little introduction of who our special guest and what their focus is?
Yeah, so her focus is her name is Golubina Markovic, and she's based in Canada. She works with tech companies over in the US, and she's absolutely an amazing game changer strategist. She's into that focus of how we can differentiate, how we can make things different, how we can improve things. So I really am looking forward to having her here, especially because as I was looking at our topic of offense and defense, when I was talking to her, she was like, yeah, I want to join you for that. And one of the questions here is as well, who are you influencing with? Are you using the right people in offense, the right people in defense to influence with?
And
That's
how
a
she
good
comes
one
from
to
a
talk about.
financial perspective, because
Financial and operational
yeah,
perspective, which is amazing.
because this is where a lot of people get tripped up, is what do we do, right? If say we have a desire to actually be innovative, but we really are not necessarily operating even to keep up with the current
Yeah.
competitors. Maybe there's a progression. You can't jump from A to Z so quickly. You're missing a couple steps, is my point. So this
Yeah.
is where it's all about getting real in this conversation about where you really are at as a business, before trying to get somewhere. Or
Yeah.
it could be um, a lot of things on this particular topic, and I'm trying to quit talking because I'm going to give it all
Wait, no, get stop.
away.
Time out.
I am. Oh, that's a good sports analogy. So,
Right?
those of you, thank you for joining us today. We know it's a quirky holiday, coming off a holiday weekend, those of you in Canada and the US. So, if you're watching the replay, please put it in the comments of what your thoughts are about the topic that we had today. And I will put a little reminder in case wherever you caught us in the show is about game planning your office days. As you know, we had a little twist on this today. Is what is your thoughts about this? If you know an overachiever or somebody that is trying to progress in their career, should they be organizing around their boss's schedule?
I hope not.
All right.
All right. That's it for
All
the
right.
day. So join
Bye
us next week. We have a
bye.
special guest. Don't forget. Bye.
See ya.